Hello, hello. Welcome to What's Working Now. I'm your host, Katie Richardson. Today, we have a really unique guest. This individual took a business from zero to over 10 million in 12 months. His name is Blake Newbar. And let me just share a little bit about Blake. He's a very unique individual. And listen, it's going to take something unique to go that far, that fast. So in just a few short years, Blake Newbar has built two 8-figure businesses that have generated over $27 million in online sales. He's worked with sharks from ABC's TV series Shark Tank, along with AMC TV series, and has helped 10,000 plus entrepreneurs from over 96 countries earn from their laptops. Blake, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Katie. I appreciate you having me on. It's been an incredible experience from what you mentioned, the 10 million in the first year. So we've been excited about the entire progress.
Well, I want to dive in and kind of deconstruct and see kind of the critical elements to all of this. And I believe strongly that somebody like you, who's able to go from 0 to 10 million plus in such a short amount of time, has a very unique perspective on business, on life. And so tell us the story of an experience that has really formed and shaped that perspective, how you see the world.
Sure. So I think when you're like coming in entrepreneurship, everyone's so green, right? You really don't know what you're doing. And once you kind of understand that concept never changes, right? Even the most successful people on the planet, they are kind of flying blindly, but you would never guess it, right? You would be like, oh, they have their stuff together. But the truth of the matter is that no one really has their stuff together in business. Everyone's kind of navigating blindly, figuring things out as they go. And so with that in mind, that was kind of how we went about it. My biggest experience was just kind of flying blind constantly. And that leads to a lot of failures, right?
Sure.
And I think the concept of failing is what kind of can scare a lot of people away from even the game of entrepreneurship in the first place. But ultimately, it's your greatest success will be hinged off your biggest failures. And the thing that really shaped my perspective was just going out there and kind of quote unquote getting my face kicked in every time I try something new for the first time. And it just doesn't work, right? And again, it's kind of a recipe for your future success. Is you don't get to understand what works like going forward, but at least you understand what doesn't work. So again, it's process of elimination. You do it again and again, you're going to have success. So phase one, as I would come into the game of entrepreneurship, you just think, oh, I'm going to start an idea and everyone's going to want it and I'm going to make money because everyone around me is making money. And then you quickly realize that is not the game at all. And you move kind of into the phase two, which is the humbling phase of like, we got to get good at something. So to answer your question, in more words than needed, it's failing. Failing was my biggest mindset shift that gave me the ability to really focus on what does it really require out of a human and an individual to build a $10 million business. And the answer is you just got to become really good at something through all the failures you had previously. You're not going to ever create anything great if you don't fail first, period. There is no way around that. Like there's not one entrepreneur on the planet that has done that ever. From all these overnight pop-up, what you think are successful social media platforms and stuff, and they struck gold. No, they failed on 10, 20, 30, 50 ideas before they struck gold with that thing. And it wasn't just their time yet. So if you're listening or watching right now, the best thing you could ever do to even get on your path to 6 figures or 7 figures, right? And eventually 8 and 9 and these crazy numbers is go out there, start trying stuff. And literally your whole goal should be to fail at what you're trying.
As you are moving through all of that and you're having failures, to me, that means you have your sights on something besides that specific thing that started to fail, right? So what is it that you had that your eyes focused on that was beyond all of those failures that allowed you to keep going?
A lot of it, I don't want to have the whole cliche violin story of passion, but it's got to be something that you're really interested in. And once you have that vision and that goal and something you want to accomplish, right? It makes it worthwhile. And it's the whole, like, it makes your clock tick, gets you out of bed every morning. So for us specifically, for me, it's the whole being able to solve really big problems. Like my business partner and I, that's our main goal, right? Because what gets us excited, what will get everyone excited, and we had to learn this too, is progression. Like progress is what is fun. That's the dopamine rush you're going to get as an entrepreneur. It's always the journey.
Yeah.
you might think it's the end goal. Like if you have your eyes on the prize, like I want a $10 million business. I promise you, once you get there, it gets boring again. It's like, it's this primitive biochemistry nature we have in us, because if you think about it back in the day, like when we were hunters, right? The fun part was scoping out the prey. And the second, you have your spear and you kill the buffalo, you're thinking, what's next, right? So it kind of works the same thing. So what keeps us going, like past those failures and like what was exciting? Honestly, it's the vision. It's being able to know that we're going to continue to solve really big problems. And if we really started out in the first place where our idea was really big because it was based on solving a really big problem, that's what keeps us excited, regardless of how many times we fail, because we know if we stick with it long enough, we're eventually going to have a really good chance at success with that thing that we're working on.
And tell us specifically, as you were trying all of these things and failing at a lot of them, eventually you found something that you were really, really good at. What is that thing that you've started to hone in on?
Yeah. So after, the 50 or so failures, what we started becoming really good at was we noticed we had this like knack for helping people. Like, funny enough, it's like it couldn't work on ourselves before, but then like we found a really good way of like helping other people. And we built a business based around building products to really help customers have success online. I think a big reason for that success is when we knew it was our own products in the beginning, like our own thing we wanted to do, we were okay, like really hardcore failing, right? Like we were like, okay, if like we spent a lot of money and resources and time and it just bombed and we had to just shelf an idea after like 6 months of working on it. What we realized is that when we worked with other people and we wanted to help them, we had this like, we almost felt bad. We're like, man, if we don't make someone a success or help make someone a success that put their money into us, like that kind of hurt us worse than if it was our own stuff. If it was our own stuff, we wouldn't care, right? We're working on it. But when it was someone else's stuff, like we would do anything in our power to make it a massive success for them. So we realized like with that kind of like catalyst, that kind of fire in us, we found we became really successful at helping a ton of people online because of that mentality. So that's what that kind of rolled into.
And were these individuals, were they already in business and you were helping them shift to making money online, or were they starting from zero?
Starting from ground zero. I
Wow.
think. Yeah, I think the internet has given everyone, it's kind of the gateway now. It's kind of the new lens people are looking through. And I think what's happening a lot is, look, a lot of people are ditching the 9 to 5. And that's not even new news, right? That's been around for decades, right? It's just, It gets popular at times. It's ebb and flows, but a lot of people, they don't like what they do. That's just the reality of it. They wake up every day kind of miserable about what they have to go and accomplish. And they see the internet and they look through it through that lens, and they see people, know better than them, making tons and tons of money and impact and change. And they're interested. So the people we always went after, we would have some people that like had a business and they wanted to find ways to grow it. But the majority of our customers that we liked serving the most are people to give them that like very exponential shift in perspective on like what's possible out there. So it's people that are starting from scratch. They have no idea what they're doing, no skill sets yet, but they have this like desire to earn using the internet. And those would be the majority of the customers we come in contact with and work with on a daily basis.
Wow. I mean, to take somebody else, to take yourself from 0 to 10 million, that's one thing, but help somebody else, like that requires a really special skill set. So that's super impressive.
Yeah, no, and we're learning every day. I'll never claim to know anything. Honestly, the more you know, I think we all realize the more you don't know, and you kind of feel dumb all the time. But that's also a superpower in itself too, because it keeps you hungry to keep learning. So being able to help others, like, start a business, even making their first sale online is this transformational process. And I think that's kind of our big why now is there's nothing like it. The second I had my first sale online, it changed my entire like biochemistry, like my entire brain rewired every neurological connection you can imagine. And I realized there was nothing else like it in the world. So giving other people that ability, I know that once they feel that and they experience that, they're going to be set on this like mission to continue on that path.
Something that I've noticed about you over the years is you are ruthless at taking action. And you've even said on social media, you said, don't think, just do. How do you utilize that mantra, and how has it contributed to your success.
Yeah, we have the whole ready, fire, aim mentality. And I implore everyone to adopt that because it's the mentality I never adopted for the longest time. And when you adopt kind of the ready, fire, aim, your success rate goes through the roof. And what I mean by ready, fire, aim, if no one's ever heard of it, it's just instead of like planning and like figuring something out and then going after it, it's just like once you have the concept or the idea, start working on it. And then like as you refine it, start aiming where you want to take it. Right. So I've always learned this and I hate it, but I love it at the same time because it's always uncomfortable when you get a new idea, or you get a new project you're working on, you kind of have to just you have to dive in head first. And it's uncomfortable and you're going to learn a lot. You're going to make a ton of mistakes, right? And that's the part where you're just like, oh, why does it have to be like this, right? Because as humans, we want to know we're going into something like where everything there's the most risk is mitigated because it kind of keeps us, sane, right? But every time you're going into something and you're wasting time by not getting your hands, quote unquote, hands dirty with it, you're wasting time, right? Because the most time we've ever had success in the business and the most time I've ever made money was when I just dove in head first, made every mistake in the book, and then came out with something that was working. So the whole concept of take action now, like, we have this mantra called launching perfectly. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. No one cares. Just get the thing out the door. It's based on speed, because success favors speed. And the faster you're able to move in a marketplace with something, the better chances you're going to have at winning and making it successful. So if you take action first and then plan, you're in a better position ultimately to find success. So that's kind of where that came from.
I've been an entrepreneur for over 18 years, and I've watched as the planning, the strategizing, the systematizing everything before you launch, like that has radically transformed. And now the feedback loop is so fast. And that's what you need, is that feedback. And so to your point, you got to get your ideas out there because you need the response, the interaction. And we are in this phase where you have to learn by doing.
Correct.
And that has been one of your greatest assets, it seems like.
Yeah. No, we've found a way to leverage that for sure.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about what goes on in your head as you're going from 0 to 10 million so fast. Like one thing that I have seen, that as somebody's business is growing so quickly, what can happen is they can start to self-sabotage. And have you ever dealt with any of that? And if so, what does that look like for you? And how have you navigated getting out of your own way?
Yeah. So anytime you're going to have growth like that, things kind of start imploding, right?
Yeah.
Chaos happens, right? Businesses fail a lot of times because they don't make money. A lot of things that people don't talk about is a lot of businesses can fail because they make money too fast. We're not in either of those situations, but that's just, it's a good point to remember, because fast growth does lead to chaotic moments. Chaotic moments can lead to you're in trouble, right? So yeah, definitely. There was moments where we're like, how do I set this up now? What do we do? And then I guess once you realize in the beginning phases of any business, it's kind of everyone wears every hat. You might do contract negotiation to design to traffic, right? You might do it all, right? And then as you grow, which is, when you get to where we've been fortunate enough to get to, the way to kind of mitigate all that, right, and buy back your time and free up your space is you hire human capital, right? It's surround yourself with an amazing team of people with skill sets better than you in specific areas, right? That's why you hire. Like, we have an amazing team where honestly, everyone in every position is better than me or my business partner at the things they do that we can't do them as good. So that's kind of the name of the game when you keep growing to that level. There have been moments where you feel like, things are going to implode and crumble down, and right. But that's business. There's ebbs and flows. In general, you're always going to be okay, but you have to start thinking less about how can I tackle this problem and more, how can I delegate and find the right person to knock it out for me? And that is because at the end of the day, look, as entrepreneurs, right, we're all control freaks. You kind of want to do everything to make sure it's perfect and have it your way, but you're never going to grow a company like that. You're not. You're going to stay really small, and your growth would be extremely limited. It's better to have like a bunch of you, and even if a bunch of you are like working at 60 to 70%, And it might not be perfect. Even that alone is going to be better and move you faster as a business than just you trying to tackle everything yourself. So it was the ability to hire a lot of human capital, a lot of people, an amazing team, and have everyone like really excel in their role that can keep it from going down a chaotic path or risk any type of failure because of an implosion of some sort.
I mean, that was something that I was assuming as I saw the last 12 months of your life is nobody can do that on their own. And so you've talked about a business partner. You've now just talked about having an incredible team. And so I can imagine a lot of your time and attention has been on finding the right people and plugging them into the right places. And as a new company growing that quickly, it can be easy for people to kind of be in their own little worlds and be siloed and not have everybody driving towards the same goals and objective, right? So like ideally we're all in the same boat, rowing in the same rhythm, same direction.
Exactly.
What are some things that you do to lead your team and to like empower them, right? Because I see a lot of CEOs who they hire people, but then they continue to jump in and do the things for their people and they don't really let them own their space. So what are some things that you've done to really empower your team and continue to lead them all in the same direction?
Yeah, so we have like a basic, first off, we have like a basic infrastructure where it's like, we have like meetings, we have like specific set standard meetings. We kind of follow a framework on how that works. That kind of keeps everything in organized, in check. But most importantly, like with everyone else, everyone has like free carte blanche to like make decisions, right? We don't micromanage. I think that's the biggest mistake you can make is like bring people on board, especially like at the time, what was a scrappy startup and like kind of micromanage everyone. No one likes being micromanaged. So we have our culture here is very like open door policy, like in terms of decision making, and we pull everyone's ideas and we ask for advice from them to get their input. And when you make people feel involved in a way where you truly care because you really need their advice, I think the stick of them hanging around, it happens for a while and keeps them around a lot longer for that mere instance. Like people, we've had people work for us that are like, man, I've been in corporate 9 to 5 and my voices and my ideas never got heard. And then I came and worked with you guys and you guys let me kind of steer the ship, or you let me call the shots on this. And we're always like, yeah, like we're not hiring you to be a robot. Like I can go, they have software and tools that are robots now to automate everything. We're hiring you because you have a brain and we need you to we want you to use it. So I think giving people kind of a platform and a place where they feel safe to voice their opinions and their ideas, it helps grow the business. It challenges us. If I see something one way and someone sees something a different way, it might open up my eyes to go, oh, I didn't look at it from that perspective. So you're able to crowdsource on a really big level when you let everyone do that and problem solve a lot faster. So when you give someone kind of like a safe haven and a ground to really voice ideas that are, even if they're bad ideas, we don't care, and you kind of have an open door policy where they can reach out I tell everyone, I go, if you need to contact me anytime. It doesn't matter. I don't care if it's 3 a.m., 4 a.m. It doesn't matter. I think giving that and granting your team that and letting them feel like they're in a place where they're safe, their ideas will be heard. They're led to feel important at times on what they're contributing. It lets them actually express themselves in a business environment. Unlike most, 9 to 5s or other like strict environments that are kind of just, puts you in a place where you're robotic and you can't shine and you can't like kind of blossom into this flower. So I think that we would attribute a lot of our culture based around that and people wanting to be around and the growth of it because of that.
Like, I think this way that you view your team is such a critical element to your success. And I see people making the opposite mistake. And the fact that you are hiring people, seeing their gifts and talents, having this powerful humility where you can lead your team and at the same time say to your team, I need your ideas. I want your ideas. I value your mind. I value your creativity, and bring that to the meeting, bring that to the products and services that we're creating. I think like that balance, you're in the sweet spot, and it's really a huge element to the success that you're able to create right now today. And I hope everybody who's listening is letting this in, because as the leader, when you can be in that place where you are focused on the targets, the goals, objectives ahead, and you're open to your team, you're empowering your team to engage their brain and not be robots. Like this is such a critical element to successful businesses today. And it's really incredible to hear how you guys make that such a big part of your team culture.
Totally. Yeah, it's huge. And I implore anyone that's going in that direction, like, you know, if you took anything from it, yeah, let your members do, let your team members do what you hired them to do. And trust me, things will go a lot further.
Something else that you've said online that stood out to me, and I just loved it. You said, great ideas are always crazy until they are not. Just go for it. You have nothing to lose. Tell me how that perspective, that mantra has really helped and supported you in your life.
Yeah, I think it gives you the willingness and the open-mindedness to tackle things that kind of scare the crap out of you, right? Because every time you tackle something really big, it doesn't have to be really big. Anytime you tackle something in general, right? It doesn't exist yet. There's nothing there, right? And as a result, it always seems kind of crazy until you build it, or you know, it's a service you created for, whatever it is. And then once you the thing is, most ideas, when you launch an idea and it fails, right? It's like, there's not, you're like, whatever. You know, it was crazy. Of course it was crazy. It didn't even work, right? But then like you have this concept where if you go and launch something and it actually works, what seemed to be crazy in the infancy stages of building it out now is like, oh, it's genius, right? Oh, it works, right? But the thing is, it's like the whole Steve Jobs thing. You can't connect the dots moving forward. You can only do it backwards. So until you get to the point of it being successful or it actually working, you can't go, oh, wow. So the whole time the idea is kind of insane until you're like, this actually worked. Because no matter what, in any idea, when it does work, even no matter how much you think it's going to work, the moment it does work is the moment you're like, oh my gosh, this actually did work. Right. And I think a lot of people, you know, including us, right? We always think most things are crazy to tackle, especially the bigger that they are. And then once you do it, it's like, that wasn't crazy anymore. That was, it reminds me of the Bud Light commercial. If you've ever seen the Bud Light commercial, it's like, it's basically this commercial based on superstition. It's all these people like drinking Bud Lights, and they would have like this superstition with it. And then like, the whole concept was like, it's crazy unless it's not, or it's crazy unless it works. And it's kind of the same concept. It's like, people might view us of like, why work on that? Or why do that? That's kind of insane. No one's tried that before. And then you do it and they're like, oh my gosh, like, duh, of course you'd work on that. That seems so easy now. So it's always kind of based on that. Just work on something, you know, really big, or it doesn't have to be that big right away, right? Just work on something that might seem crazy to you, right? Because everyone's level of craziness differs based on their experiences and their previous efforts in a business. And then like, once it does work, you'll realize that all your time spent on it was worth it. And it wasn't as crazy as you thought, because it's working for you. So that's how we look at it.
Because of all of these elements and components that we're talking about specifically to your business and similar type businesses, you cannot escape the fact that there's tremendous stress in this kind of position that you're in. And so what are things that you do as a CEO to help you manage stress physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally? Like, what are some things, do you have practices, ways that you can relieve the pressure and the stress?
Sure. So I'm probably a terrible example of this, because I don't do any of the things that like you'll see a lot of people do to manage like stress, whether it's like good stress, like eustress, or bad stress that we all hate, where it's like cold showers, meditation, all that stuff, read books. I really don't do any of that stuff. So I guess my number one way to deal with stress really is I'll travel a lot. I'll go on like vacations and just kind of break away from the actual work environment. And I think that really clears your mind and like kind of like resets everything. So when you come back, you're level headed again. But that's really all I do. Other than that, I feel like just as entrepreneurs, like stress is just part of the game. Like my fiance, when she's stressed, she'll be stressed because like, you know, her job, something happened, like she lost a deal or some employees were acting up, whatever it might be, right? But I think like when you kind of step into this arena, you just have to understand that you're going to kind of live your life always uncomfortable. And when you kind of accept that, stress is now normalized, where it's not so much like, oh, like, I don't think there's ever a moment, and you know, maybe there will be, where I'm just like, oh, I'm so stressed. I'm kind of just like, I justify the stress with like a bad situation where it's like, yeah, that's kind of probably supposed to happen right now. And I think looking at it from a different vantage point can kind of control how you feel about it. Like I'll get stressed over dumb things that aren't even business related. Like, For example, let's say I bought something and I forgot to return it and I knew I was supposed to return it, let's say, and I'm just like, I'll get stressed. I'll be like, oh, you idiot. Why didn't you do that? Right. But yeah, I'll come into business and we'll be doing some high revenue on something and it doesn't work out. I'm just like, that's kind of supposed to happen. So I think a lot of the answer to that is that dealing with stress in business versus personal life or whatever, it's you kind of just have to walk into it knowing that stress in business is part of the game and just kind of make it part of you, like a leg or an arm, right? It should just kind of be an extension of you where it's just part of this game and it's coming with it. So how you handle it is kind of based on what lens you're looking at it through. And when you can channel it, not like stress, like, oh, I'm stressed, and channel it like, yeah, this is business. It's supposed to happen. It's a lot easier to really deal with.
Yeah. There's a lot of interesting things going on in the world right now. Things are shifting. Inflation rates are changing. Markets are shifting. And, it's possible that we're very much headed into a recession. And with that comes tremendous volatility. And I believe there's tremendous opportunity in that volatility. So as somebody who knows how to operate in those kinds of environments, what opportunities do you see right now for entrepreneurs and CEOs to come out on the other side of all of that as one who has taken advantage of the volatility?
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, I think a lot of the things for entrepreneurs, because in my opinion, a lot of things that you're going to make money on in the recession are not sexy ideas. I could be wrong, but I think a lot of it's going to be like, there's public markets, there's going to be arbitrage and buying stocks and stuff, right? And this is not financial advice, just so everyone knows. Real estate, I think, is, there's going to be some opportunity in real estate when stuff comes down. But in general, some of the biggest business, I think a lot of entrepreneurs, never wait because a bad time's coming, right? Some of the biggest businesses on earth were launched during a recession. Uber, Square, all these, I could be wrong on some of these, but some of these are massive businesses that were launched in a recession. I think, here's the thing. I think regardless, if you have a good idea, right? Recession or not, people are going to find a way to want to use it. That's just how it is. If there's a recession, some of these, the ideas can be very inelastic, right? Like whether we're in a booming economy or we are in like a depression, people are going to go to the store and buy Frosted Flakes. You're not changing the way you're going to eat cereal because of the state of the economy. And that's how I look at businesses, right? It's like, you can launch a business in a booming economy. You can launch in a recession. If it's good enough, it's going to freaking work. And that's how I'd be looking at it. I would almost ignore the writing on the wall, because here's the thing, you're going to get 70 million opinions on when the recession is coming, when it's going to hit. No one really knows. When it hits, and then we're all going to know, right? But in the meantime, just focus on building a really cool thing that you think is going to work. And like I said, recession or not, if it's good enough, it's going to find a way to have success. So that would be my number one thing to focus on, is kind of defocus on the economical environment, unless it truly is affecting what you're good at, right? Pay attention if it's like I said, if you're in real estate, yeah, there's some advantages, but other than that, if you're starting some type of tech software or something, honestly, it's not going to impact it on a level that I think, that's made us to believe it's going to be impacted on. So just go for it. And if it's good enough, it's going to freaking work.
Love it. Love it. What's something that nobody is talking about right now, but you believe they should be?
I don't think AI is getting the conversation it once had. I think it fizzled a little bit. And I think that should be a little louder, is because of what AI can do, especially in the marketing world of what it could do one day. No one's really, look, there's moments where people do talk about it, and then it's like crypto. It's like, oh, it's when something's working, it's talked about. And then when it doesn't work, no one cares anymore, because it's almost embarrassing. You're like, I didn't invest at Bitcoin at 70,000, or whatever. It's like that. So I think AI is a conversation that I think is going to be, people are priced, they're still talking about. I just don't see it as loud as it was. And I think it should be a lot louder, especially in the digital marketing space, on what you could really do with that technology once it comes to fruition.
I love that. It's true. It's not talked about as much as it used to be.
No.
Yeah. Interesting. I have one other question that I wanted to ask you. Oh, as a CEO, you are looking ahead and into the future, right? And so we have these long-term goals and objectives that we're working towards, and yet there are very urgent and real needs inside of the business right now today. So what are things that you do to manage those two different worlds of working on the business and not getting stuck working in the business?
So that comes back to a little bit of my previous, what we talked about previously. The way to kind of not get stuck working in the business versus being able to work on it is replacing yourself with other people. People, like basically systems, right? A system is created from people, processes, and tools. And when you combine all three together, you create a system. And I think that the ability to do that and do it moving forward in the future is there's this really cool chart. I think it's called the Eisenhower Method. And it's basically this kind of like Punnett square. And it kind of tells you, like, are you supposed to do it, get rid of it, delegate it, right? And that's kind of a good framework to work from. Yeah, it's called the Eisenhower Method. And it kind of tells you what to do, right? Based on like, hey, if it's this and this, do this, right? So it's a really like if-then statement. And I think that's the way to kind of not get stuck on working in your business. Because look, in the beginning, you're always going to work in your business. You're going to work in your business for a long time. Really, you're going to work in your business until you can afford to bring on help to fire yourself from specific things. But any given time you can, I think the ability to start working on your business is directly correlated to the human capital you have to buy back your time, so you can focus on those things.
Love it. So good. Blake, what's a question that I should be asking you right now and I haven't?
That's a good question. What's the number one way to get started online? I'd say, because I think that's a big
I love that.
people have.
Yeah.
So when we got started, right, money was the issue, right? I think here's the thing, and I don't think there's a lot of conversation around this. A lot of people want to start online because you're like, here's what you're probably thinking to yourself. I hate what I do. I want to get rich online, right? Whether you talk about it or not, whether it's probably more taboo because you're supposed to, you might not, you might feel uncomfortable having those conversations, but that's what's probably going through your head. I don't want to wake up anymore and be an accountant. I want to make a lot of money from my laptop and have my freedom, right? So the number one question, a lot of people are doing is like, well, what do I do? How do I make money from my laptop? And the number one piece of advice I could give to anyone getting started right now is there's really two paths, right? One is affiliate marketing, which you can basically go sell someone else's product, which is super powerful. They built the entire business and you're just basically a commission-based sales rep. Number two is what we did, and that was quick cash, which is render a service to someone. Like go build a website, go build a funnel, go design something, right? Go write email copy, provide some service in the online space to a business where you are directly paid based on the service you render. You could literally get paid in a day of it. And that's what we did. So we started an agency back in 2017 and grew it to $1 million in the first year. But it was a stepping stone, right? It was the goal was never to be an agency. The goal was to get a little bit of cash flow and coin in our pocket to eventually step kind of to the next lily pad to do something bigger. And we've kind of just been playing this level up game ever since. But a lot of people would say, what do I do online? Like I said, my best thing is, if you want actionable advice online, go to one of these platforms like Upwork, right? Or Freelancer, and literally go look at the types of work that people want. These platforms are amazing. It's basically where you bring buyer and seller together. You bring like service. It's like an Angie, right? Like an Angie's List, which is now called Angie, where it's like, I need something done, right? So go there, provide a skill set. We all have a skill set, and go get paid from it and start earning some income and really getting good at some type of skill. And then once you have resources, once you have money, opportunities limitless. No one broke can ever, you're not saving the whales or changing the world if you're broke. You're just not, right? So if you're able to acquire some money and start leveling up, the doors and the possibilities are going to open 10x on what you can do and where you can focus your effort. You just got to learn. You got to get good at making money first. And I personally think the fastest way is to provide a service right out of the gate. Some skill. There's some skill everyone has.
Yes.
Everyone listening right now has some skill. And you're be like, Blake, well, I don't know what I'm good at. You got to think that you're good at the thing you think you're not good at. You are 100 times better than probably the average person. Go monetize that skill by finding someone that wants to buy that skill. And the way you do that is you find these online platforms, like I said, like Freelancer or Upwork, where there's people basically begging. They're saying, I have money in my hand. Can you provide this for me? And that's where you come in and go, yes, actually I can. And that's like a great way to get started.
I hear very few people talking about this, and yet, like, this is how I got started too, right? You have to have some skill, something that
Yeah.
some value that you're generating for people, and become known for that thing. And that becomes, I think my favorite tweetable moment in that last segment was, "You're not saving the whales if you're broke," which
Yeah,
is
you can't.
so true. You can't. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
there's nothing you can do broke. You literally can't do anything broke, but probably be mad that you're broke. So instead of
Yeah.
blaming other people, get out of that environment by taking action on something. Don't rely on anyone. Don't rely on the government. They're not ever going to save you, right? Don't rely on your family or your friends, right? It's got to be you. And once you prove yourself, then it's funny how it flips. Everyone's going to want a piece of you at that point, but could just go prove yourself first. And like I said, you're going to find a skill you're good at. Like if you're watching this right now and thinking, well, all I do is play video games. Good. Go open up a Twitch stream and show people how good you are at playing video games. There's always something you can do where someone wants to watch or learn from.
Another thing that I've noticed about you is while you're capable of generating huge amounts of money, I mean, you said this in the beginning, for you, it's not about the money. The resources are there for you to be able to help and serve people, which is what you said in the beginning, which I think is such a critical component. And you mentioned this again in the beginning, and I want to reiterate it for people. Like, if you're doing it for the money, you're going to get there and it's going to feel hollow and empty and it won't be fulfilling. And so part of your passion and your drive is helping people in that component. And because that's what you're focused on, the money comes.
Exactly right. Like I think when you
Yeah.
get started, yeah, and I think when you get started, you're about the money. You're like, I want to make money, right?
Right.
I don't think. I think it's very few and far between people come into an online space and they're like, I want to help the world right now, right? Some do, I get it, but I think the majority really come in. They feel very uncomfortable talking about. They're like, I want to get rich online. Period. Like I want to make money online. That's the fact of it. And then this is here's the shift. Then you make the money. And like you're saying, Katie, you're like, okay, yeah, this is kind of like hollow and boring. Like, how can we like go to another level? And that's when you really have to start fulfilling and being fulfilled by, helping others and getting people to where they want to go. Right. But you know what it is? It's like, there's a quote, I forgot who said it, but it's money doesn't buy happiness. But everyone wants to figure that out for themselves. And it's so true, right? You're like, because we all hear that all the time. You're like, oh yeah, money doesn't buy happiness, right? Like, and you're led to believe that. But deep down, that voice in the back of your head's going, yeah, BS. Let me figure that out. And then you figure it out and you go, oh, it was true. But when something is told to you, you're never going to fully understand it until you actually experience it. And that's the difference too. So yes, I think people come in and they want to make money. They want to get off Maslow's hierarchy of safety needs. They don't want to think about rent and food, right? Once you get past that and you feel a little more comfortable, then you can start expanding your mind and opening up to like, okay, how can we serve and really help people on another level? But first, I think it's purely selfishly coming into it to be like, I need to be okay first, which is rightfully so, because if you're not, it's so safe basing on an airplane when the oxygen masks come down, they say, put yours on first before the person. They got to know that you're safe first before you help someone else, right? Same thing in business. You got to know that you're kind of safe making money before you can really, truly help someone else.
Blake, I really appreciate everything that you've shared with us today. And it's been really interesting to kind of dive into you, your world, your perspective, how you have built a significant business and how you built the team to create that business. And so I really appreciate all the value that you've brought to us today.
Well, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to jam out with you, Katie.
Well, I have actually a couple rapid fire questions for you here at the end. What's something that you do consistently every day?
Brush my teeth.
That's your greatest habit. I love it. That's awesome. Is there a book that maybe you had read more than once that has lasting power in your life?
I think like Viralnomics is a really good book, or .com Secrets by Russell Brunson is a really good book too. If you're looking to get started online, I can't recommend a better book than .com Secrets. Love it.
So good. Has there been some good advice that somebody's given you in your life that really helped you out in a critical moment?
Always trust the plan. Old boss of mine, he was an Army Ranger, and Colin Powell came up to him one day and tapped him on the shoulder, and he was working on like a big mission or whatever. And he says, always trust the plan. And that stuck with me ever since, because when you're developing a plan in something, you're the most level-headed, right? You're going to attack something with the most thought, the most clarity. And what we do as entrepreneurs is when things kind of like nothing goes as planned, as you realize very quickly, you kind of deviate away from it. You always have to remember, trust what you originally set out to do and focus on that. It's your best chance of success.
So wise. Blake, for people who want to be a part of your world, where are you most active on social media?
I have a free Facebook group. It's called Freedom Fighters. Launch your first $1 million sales funnel. It's a free group. You can join it. And we just jam out about marketing stuff and funnels and websites and all that cool stuff.
I love it. And we'll have a link for you guys in the show notes. Blake, thank you so much. This has been absolutely incredible.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I had a great time.
Me too. And for everybody who's listening, this is What's Working Now.